The morning bus ride to Ashford Academy took almost 2 hours from the south side of the city. Maya sat by the window, her forehead pressed against the cool glass, watching as the neighborhood slowly changed. The small apartments and corner stores gave way to tree-lined streets and grand houses with iron gates. Her stomach twisted with nerves as she clutched the acceptance letter in her pocket for the 100th time, as if checking it was still real. She had worn her best clothes today, a navy blue dress her mother had found at the thrift store last week, carefully ironed the night before. Her shoes were old but polished until they shined. Still, as the bus pulled up to the academy's golden gates, Maya felt suddenly very small. The building looked like something from a movie, all white marble and tall columns, with perfectly manicured gardens stretching out on both sides. Other students were arriving in sleek cars, their parents dropping them off with quick hugs and waves. Maya got off the bus at the corner, hoisting her worn backpack over her shoulder. It was the same backpack she had used since middle school, with a small tear on the side that her mother had sewn shut with careful stitches. As she walked through the main entrance, her footsteps echoed on the polished floor. The hallway stretched before her like something from a palace. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the walls were lined with framed photographs of famous musicians who had studied here. Their serious faces stared down at her as if asking what someone like her was doing in their sacred halls. Maya tried to walk with confidence, but she could feel eyes on her from every direction. A group of girls stood near the main staircase, all wearing designer clothes and carrying expensive leather bags. Their conversation stopped as Maya passed. She heard the whispers start immediately, though they didn't bother to keep their voices particularly low. "Is that the scholarship girl? Oh my God, look at her phone. Is that from like 5 years ago? I heard her mom cleans houses for a living." Maya's cheeks burned hot, but she kept walking. Her mother had told her this might happen. "Some people measure worth by money," she had said while packing Maya's lunch that morning. "You measure it by what's in here." She had tapped Maya's chest right over her heart. "And here," then her forehead. "That's all that matters. Mija." The orientation was held in the main concert hall, a breathtaking space with rows of velvet seats facing a huge stage. Maya found a seat near the back, hoping to go unnoticed. But as more students filed in, she realized that blending in was impossible. Everyone else seemed to know each other already, probably from the same private schools or summer music camps. They hugged and laughed, comparing vacations to Europe and new instruments their parents had bought them. A tall girl with perfectly styled blonde hair sat down in the row in front of Maya, surrounded by a cluster of friends. She wore a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than Maya's mother made in a month. The girl turned around, her eyes sweeping over Maya with undisguised curiosity. "I don't think we've met," she said, her tone friendly but somehow still condescending. "I'm Victoria Hartwell. My family donated the new West Wing concert hall last year. You must be new here." Maya nodded. "Yes, I'm Maya Rodriguez. This is my first day." "Rodriguez," Victoria repeated as if tasting the name. "How interesting. And what program are you in? Classical piano?" "Yes, piano." "How wonderful." Victoria's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Did your parents go here too? It's quite a legacy school, you know. My grandmother was in the class of 1965. Maya felt her throat tighten. "No, I'm here on scholarship." The change in Victoria's expression was subtle but unmistakable. "Oh," she said, drawing out the word. "A scholarship. How charitable of the school." She turned back to her friends, and Maya caught the exchange of glances, the suppressed smiles. Throughout the orientation, Maya tried to focus on what the dean was saying about the school's history and expectations, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being constantly watched and judged. When they broke for a campus tour, she found herself walking alone while other students formed easy groups. The music building was stunning, with dozens of practice rooms lining the corridors. Each room had a beautiful piano, far nicer than anything Maya had ever played. At her old school, they had one beaten-up piano in the music room that was missing several keys. Here, every instrument looked like it belonged in a museum. Quite a step up from public school, isn't it? Victoria's voice came from behind her. She had appeared with her group of friends, all of them looking at Maya with barely concealed amusement. "I hope you know how lucky you are. Most people would kill for an opportunity like this." "I do know," Maya said quietly. "That's why I'm here." "Well, just so you understand how things work around here," Victoria continued, her voice taking on a sharper edge. "Ashford has standards, a reputation to maintain. We can't all rely on charity to get by. Some of us have earned our place through family legacy and significant contributions to the school." One of Victoria's friends giggled. "Vicky's family literally has their name on a building. What does your family have their name on? Scholarship girl? A mop bucket?" The group erupted in laughter. Maya felt her face grow hot, her eyes stinging with the threat of tears, but she refused to let them see her cry. She lifted her chin and looked Victoria straight in the eye. "My family name isn't on any building," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But my audition tape got me here. I didn't need anyone to buy my way in." Victoria's eyes flashed with anger at the implication. "We'll see how long you last," she said coldly. "Playing piano takes more than just raw talent. It takes refinement, culture, things you can't just pick up from a keyboard in some tiny apartment." They walked away, their laughter echoing down the hallway. Maya stood there for a long moment, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. How did Victoria know she practiced on a keyboard? Had she been talking about her, spreading information around? The rest of the day passed in a blur of uncomfortable moments. In the dining hall, no one invited her to sit with them. In her music theory class, when she pulled out her notebook and pencil, she noticed everyone else had expensive tablets and electronic devices. During a break, she overheard two boys talking about the charity case and whether she would drop out before the end of the first semester. By the time the final bell rang, Maya was exhausted. Not from the classes, which she had actually found exciting and challenging, but from the constant stress of feeling like an outsider. She walked to the bus stop alone, her backpack heavy on her shoulders. As she waited for the bus that would take her back to her neighborhood, back to her small apartment where her mother would be waiting to hear about her first day, Maya made herself a promise. She wouldn't let them break her. She wouldn't give Victoria and her cruel friends the satisfaction of seeing her quit. The bus arrived, its brakes squealing as it stopped. Maya climbed aboard and found a seat by the window. As the academy disappeared behind her, growing smaller in the distance, she pulled out her phone and opened her music app. She put in her earbuds and listened to Rachmaninoff, letting the powerful, emotional music fill her head. They thought she didn't belong here. They thought she would fail. But they had no idea how hard she had worked to get here, how many hours she had spent practicing while other kids were hanging out with friends. They didn't know about the nights her mother had stayed up late helping her with theory homework, even though she didn't read music herself. Maya closed her eyes and let the music wash over her. She had spent her whole life being underestimated. This would be no different. She would show them all what she was capable of. She would prove that talent and determination mattered more than money or family names. The battle had just begun, and Maya Rodriguez was ready to fight. The next few weeks at Ashford Academy were even harder than Maya had imagined. Every day brought new challenges that had nothing to do with music and everything to do with fitting into a world that didn't want her there. It started small. Maya would arrive at the practice rooms early in the morning, only to find that somehow all the good rooms were already reserved under other students' names. The rooms she ended up with always had some problem, a sticky key on the piano or a window that wouldn't close, letting in the cold air. Once she opened a practice room to find Victoria and her friends already inside, even though the schedule clearly showed it was Maya's time slot. "Oh, did you need this room?" Victoria had asked with mock innocence. I thought scholarship students practiced in the basement rooms, you know, the ones with the old pianos. Seems more appropriate, doesn't it? Her friends had laughed, and Maya had simply turned and walked away rather than cause a scene. She found another room, one with a piano that was slightly out of tune, and practiced there instead. But the incident left a bitter taste in her mouth. The social isolation was worse than the small acts of sabotage. In the cafeteria, Maya always ate alone. She tried sitting at different tables those first few days, but conversations would die down when she approached. People would suddenly remember they had to go practice or finish homework. After a while, she stopped trying and claimed a small table in the corner as her own. She called her mother every evening after classes. "How was your day, mija?" her mother would ask, her voice tired from her own long day of work. Maya always said it was fine. She couldn't bring herself to tell her mother about the whispers in the hallways or how someone had written "charity case" on her locker in marker. Her mother was working so hard, taking on extra cleaning jobs to help with Maya's expenses that the scholarship didn't cover. She didn't need to worry about these things, too. But her mother wasn't fooled. "You know you can tell me anything," she would say gently. "I know it's not easy being there." "I'm okay, Mama," Maya would insist. "Really, the classes are amazing. I'm learning so much." And that part was true. Despite everything else, the actual music education at Ashford was incredible. Her piano instructor, Professor Chen, was demanding but fair. He pushed her to explore techniques she had never considered, to think about music in new ways. During their lessons, Maya could forget about everything else and just focus on the piano. The real trouble came during the master class with Dr. Heinrich Werner, a famous conductor from Germany who was visiting the school for a week. All the piano students were required to attend his sessions, where he would critique performances and offer guidance. It was considered a huge honor to play for him. Maya had been nervous about the class all week. She had prepared a Chopin piece, practicing it until her fingers ached. She knew it wasn't perfect, but it was the best she could do with the limited practice time she could get in the good rooms. The master class was held in the main recital hall. Students filled the seats while Dr. Werner sat in the front row, his silver hair gleaming under the lights. He was an intimidating figure, known for his harsh but valuable critiques. Several students performed before Maya, each one polished and confident. When her turn came, Maya walked to the piano on shaky legs. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and began to play. The piece started well. Her fingers moved across the keys with the precision she had worked so hard to develop, but halfway through, her mind wandered for just a second, thinking about Victoria's smirk in the audience, and she hit a wrong note. Then another. She managed to recover and finish the piece, but she knew it hadn't been her best performance. The applause was polite, but scattered. Maya stood and bowed slightly, waiting for Dr. Werner's feedback. He stroked his chin thoughtfully, his expression unreadable. "The technique is adequate," he began, "but I sense hesitation, uncertainty. A pianist must have confidence, absolute conviction in every note." Maya nodded, accepting the criticism. It was fair. She had been uncertain up there, but then Victoria raised her hand from the audience. "Dr. Werner, if I may ask a question?" The conductor nodded. "Of course." Victoria stood, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "I'm curious about practice conditions and how they affect performance. For instance, if a student doesn't have access to a quality piano at home, would that impact their development?" Maya's stomach dropped. She knew exactly where this was going. Dr. Werner considered the question. "Certainly, practice conditions matter. Consistent access to a good instrument is important for muscle memory and tonal understanding." "That's what I thought," Victoria continued, her eyes now fixed on Maya. "Because I heard that some students here only have keyboards to practice on at home, not even real pianos. I wonder how someone could really develop proper technique under those circumstances." The hall had gone completely silent. Everyone was looking at Maya now. Her face burned with humiliation. "Is this true?" Dr. Werner asked, looking at Maya directly. "You practice on a keyboard?" Maya wanted to disappear. She wanted to run from the hall and never come back. But she forced herself to stand straight and answer. "Yes, sir. I have a keyboard at home, but I stay after school to practice on the real pianos here." "I see," Dr. Werner said, his tone neutral. But he didn't say anything else, didn't defend her or acknowledge how hard she was working with limited resources. He simply moved on to critique the next student. Maya sat down in her seat, feeling like she might be sick. The whispers had started immediately. She could hear fragments of conversations around her. A keyboard? Seriously? How did she even get accepted here? This is embarrassing for the school. After class, Victoria cornered her in the hallway, her friends flanking her on both sides. "I'm just being honest," Victoria said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "If you can't afford a real piano, maybe this isn't the right place for you. There's no shame in admitting you're in over your head. Some people just aren't meant for this level of excellence." "I belong here just as much as you do," Maya said, her voice low but firm. "I got in on my talent, not my parents' money." Victoria's smile vanished. "Talent? You hit 3 wrong notes up there. That's not talent. That's amateur hour. You're making all of us look bad by association." One of Victoria's friends chimed in. "Honestly, you should probably reconsider whether this is worth it. Nobody wants you here. Can't you take a hint?" Maya felt tears pricking at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of them. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "We'll see about that," Victoria replied coldly. "This school has standards, ways of weeding out people who don't fit. You'll figure that out soon enough." They walked away, leaving Maya standing alone in the empty hallway. She leaned against the wall, her legs suddenly weak. For the first time since arriving at Ashford, she seriously considered quitting. Maybe they were right. Maybe she didn't belong here. Maybe she was fooling herself, thinking she could compete with people who had been groomed for this their entire lives, who had private tutors and grand pianos in their homes and parents who understood music. That night, Maya sat on her bed in her small room, staring at her keyboard. It was a decent one, better than nothing, but it wasn't the same as a real piano. The keys didn't have the same weight. The sound wasn't as rich. She thought about Victoria's words, about Dr. Werner's neutral expression, about all the whispers and stares. Her phone rang. It was her mother, calling during her break from her evening cleaning job. "Mija, you sound sad. What happened?" And this time, Maya couldn't hold it back. She told her mother everything, about the master class, about Victoria's public humiliation, about feeling like she would never be good enough no matter how hard she tried. Her mother was quiet for a long moment after Maya finished. Then she said, "Do you remember when you were 7 and you heard piano music for the first time? At that street festival?" Maya nodded, even though her mother couldn't see her. "Yes. You stood there for an hour, watching that man play. You came home and made a piano out of cardboard boxes and drew keys on them with marker. You played that cardboard piano every day for months before we could afford to get you lessons. Do you remember why you loved it so much?" "Because it made me feel something," Maya whispered. "The music made me feel alive." "Exactly," her mother said. "Not because it would make you rich or famous or accepted by fancy people, because it spoke to your soul. That hasn't changed, has it?" "No," Maya admitted. "Then don't let them take that away from you. Don't let them make you forget why you started. You belong in that school because you earned it. Your talent is real. Your passion is real. Their money can't buy what you have inside you." After they hung up, Maya sat in silence for a while. Then she pulled up the website for the annual Ashford Gala concert, the biggest event of the year. One student would be selected to perform for all the wealthy donors, board members, and distinguished guests. It was the most prestigious opportunity the school offered. Maya had been too intimidated to even think about auditioning. But now, looking at the audition date, she made a decision. She would audition. She would prepare the most difficult piece she could manage. And she would show all of them, especially Victoria, exactly what a girl with a keyboard and a dream could do. She opened her sheet music and began to practice, her fingers moving across the plastic keys with new determination. The battle wasn't over. It was just beginning. Maya's alarm went off at 4:30 in the morning. She had been waking up this early for 2 weeks now, ever since she decided to audition for the gala concert. The audition was in 3 weeks, and she had chosen one of the most challenging pieces in the classical repertoire, Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. It was an ambitious choice, maybe even a crazy one. The piece was technically demanding, full of sweeping emotional passages and intricate runs that required absolute precision. Most students her age wouldn't even attempt it. But Maya wasn't choosing it to play it safe. She was choosing it to prove a point. She got dressed quietly, not wanting to wake her mother, who had only gotten home from her late shift a few hours ago. In the kitchen, she made herself a quick breakfast and packed her lunch. Then she caught the earliest bus to school, arriving at Ashford just as the sun was starting to rise. The security guard, Tom, had gotten used to seeing her at this hour. "Morning, Maya," he said with a kind smile, unlocking the door for her. "You're going to wear yourself out, you know." "I know," Maya replied, "but I don't have a choice." She headed straight to the practice rooms. At this hour, the building was empty and peaceful. No whispers, no stares, no Victoria. Just Maya and the piano. She chose room 12, which had the best piano on this floor, and settled in for her practice session. The opening chords of the Rachmaninoff thundered through the small room. Maya had been working on this piece section by section, slowly building up the technical skills she needed. Her fingers flew across the keys, stumbling occasionally on the more difficult passages. She would stop, go back, and repeat the section over and over until she got it right. 2 hours passed in what felt like minutes. Maya was so focused that she didn't hear the door open behind her. She didn't notice the elderly man in custodial uniform standing there, listening, until she finished a particularly difficult section and heard slow clapping. She jumped, spinning around on the piano bench. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb anyone. I can practice somewhere else." The man shook his head. No, please don't apologize. I was enjoying listening." He had a gentle face with deep wrinkles around his eyes, and he spoke with a slight accent Maya couldn't quite place. "You're working on the Rachmaninoff. Very ambitious." "Maybe too ambitious," Maya admitted. "I keep messing up the third movement." The man stepped closer, his eyes studying the sheet music on the piano stand. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the piano. Maya slid over on the bench. Confused, but curious. The janitor sat down and placed his hands on the keys. Then he began to play the exact section Maya had been struggling with. But when he played it, the notes seemed to flow effortlessly, each one perfectly placed and weighted. The music filled the room with a richness that took Maya's breath away. When he finished, Maya stared at him in amazement. "How did you do that? Who are you?" The man smiled sadly. "My name is Mr. Chen. A long time ago, in another life, I was a concert pianist in Shanghai. That was many years ago before I came to this country." "You were a concert pianist?" Maya couldn't believe it. "What happened?" Mr. Chen shrugged. "Life happened. Immigration, starting over, providing for family. The concert halls closed their doors, but the music never left me. Now I clean these rooms and listen to talented young people like you practice. It's not so bad." He looked at her with knowing eyes. "You have talent, real talent, but you're playing the notes without playing the music. Do you understand what I mean?" Maya shook her head. "The notes are just ink on paper," Mr. Chen explained. The music is what you feel here. He tapped his chest. Rachmaninoff wrote this concerto during one of the darkest times of his life. He was depressed, unable to compose, feeling like a failure. This music is about struggle, about fighting through darkness to find light again. You need to pour your own struggles into it, your own fight. Maya felt something click in her mind. I think I understand. Show me, Mr. Chen said. Play the opening again, but this time, think about why you're really here. Think about everyone who said you don't belong. Think about your mother working 2 jobs so you can chase this dream. Think about every door that closed in your face. Then play. Maya turned back to the piano and closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about Victoria's cruel smile, about the whispers in the hallway, about her mother's tired face on video calls, about the cardboard piano she made when she was 7, about every single person who had ever looked at her and seen someone who didn't matter. Then she began to play. This time, something was different. The notes weren't just notes anymore. They were her story, her pain, her determination. The music swelled and crashed like waves, and Maya felt tears streaming down her face as she played. When she finished, her hands were shaking. Mr. Chen nodded slowly, his own eyes moist. Yes, he said quietly. That is it. That is the music. From that morning on, Mr. Chen became Maya's secret teacher. He would find her during his rounds, usually early in the morning or late in the evening when the school was quiet. He couldn't officially coach her, of course. He was just the janitor. But he shared techniques he had learned decades ago from masters in Shanghai, showed her how to approach difficult passages, helped her understand the emotional core of the piece. Don't tell anyone about our sessions, he said one evening. People here they wouldn't understand. They see a janitor, not a musician. It's better this way. Maya kept his secret gratefully. She practiced harder than she ever had in her life. Her days followed a brutal schedule. Wake at 4:30, practice until classes started at 8, attend classes all day, practice again until the security guard kicked her out at night, go home and do homework, sleep for a few hours, then start all over again. Her mother worried about her. Miha, you look so tired. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping? I'm fine, Mama. Just busy with the audition coming up. Don't push yourself too hard. Your health is more important than any performance. But Maya couldn't slow down. She had something to prove, not just to Victoria and the other students, but to herself. She needed to know if she was truly good enough, if her talent was real, or just a dream she had been chasing for nothing. The other students noticed her increased practice time. Some made jokes about it. Does the scholarship girl live at school now? One boy asked loudly in the cafeteria. She's probably practicing on weekends too, another added, trying to catch up to the rest of us. Victoria's comments were sharper. I heard you're auditioning for the gala, she said one afternoon, cornering Maya in the hallway. That's cute, really ambitious of you. I'm just giving it a try, Maya said, trying to walk past her. Victoria blocked her path. You should know that I'm auditioning too. I'm doing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. It's a classic, elegant choice, very appropriate for a gala setting. She paused. What are you doing? Something simple, I hope. Wouldn't want you to embarrass yourself in front of the audition panel. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, Maya said, meeting her eyes. Victoria's smile faltered for just a second. You're joking. No. That's absurd. That piece is way beyond your level. You'll crash and burn, and honestly, it'll be painful to watch. Victoria's voice dropped lower, more menacing. Look, I'm trying to save you from humiliation. Just withdraw your audition. Pick something easier. Or better yet, don't audition at all. You're not ready for this. I'll let the judges decide that, Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Victoria's expression hardened. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. When you fail spectacularly up there, remember that I tried to help you avoid it. That night, Maya stayed at school even later than usual. Mr. Chen found her in practice room 12, working on the same difficult passage for what must have been the 100th time. "You're tired," he observed. "Your fingers are getting sloppy." "I know," Maya said, frustrated, "but I can't stop now." "The audition is next week." Mr. Chen sat down beside her on the bench. "Let me tell you something I learned many years ago. The piano can tell when you're forcing it, when you're playing from exhaustion instead of passion. The best performances come not from practicing until you drop, but from practicing with purpose and then resting so your body and mind can absorb what you've learned." "But what if I'm not ready?" "You're more ready than you think," Mr. Chen said gently. "You've worked harder than anyone else. You've put your heart into this music. Now you need to trust yourself." Maya wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her constantly. What if Victoria was right? What if she was reaching too far, too fast? What if she got up there in front of the judges and fell apart? "I see that fear in your eyes," Mr. Chen said. "Let me ask you something. Why did you choose this piece? Really?" Maya thought about it. "Because it's about overcoming struggle, because Rachmaninoff wrote it when everyone thought he was finished and he proved them all wrong. Because it's not just about playing pretty notes, it's about fighting for something that matters." "Exactly," Mr. Chen smiled. "So when you walk into that audition room, remember that. You're not just playing for the judges. You're playing for every person who ever doubted you, every door that closed in your face, every whisper behind your back. You're playing to prove that talent and determination matter more than privilege." He stood up and gathered his cleaning supplies. "Get some rest this weekend. Eat good food, sleep, let your hands recover. Then come Monday, show them what Maya Rodriguez can do." After he left, Maya sat at the piano for a few more minutes, not playing, just thinking. She looked at her hands, calloused from hours of practice, and thought about how far she had come. From a 7-year-old with a cardboard piano to a student at one of the most prestigious music academies in the country. The audition was in 5 days. 5 days to rest, to prepare mentally, to gather her courage. Victoria was probably confident she would win. She had family connections, expensive clothes for the performance, and years of private tutoring. But Maya had something Victoria didn't have. She had hunger. She had a reason to fight. And she had learned from a secret teacher who understood what music really meant. She closed the piano lid gently and gathered her things. As she walked through the empty hallways toward the exit, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not just determination, but hope. The morning of the audition, Maya woke up with her stomach in knots. She had barely slept, running through the piece in her mind over and over, worrying about every difficult passage. Her mother made her favorite breakfast, but Maya could barely eat. "You're going to be wonderful," her mother said, squeezing her hand across the small kitchen table. "I wish I could be there to watch." "It's okay, Mama. You have to work. I understand." "I'll be thinking of you every minute." Her mother pulled her into a tight hug. "Remember, no matter what happens today, I'm already so proud of you. You've worked harder than anyone I know." Maya held on to those words as she rode the bus to school. The auditions were being held in the small recital hall, a beautiful, intimate space with perfect acoustics. When she arrived, several students were already gathered outside, waiting for their turn. Victoria sat with her group of friends, looking perfectly calm and collected in an expensive designer outfit. Her blonde hair was styled flawlessly, and she exuded confidence. Maya, in her simple black dress from the thrift store, felt suddenly underdressed and out of place. She found a seat by herself and tried to review her sheet music, but her hands were shaking too much to hold it steady. The audition order was posted on the wall. Victoria was scheduled first. Maya was last. She didn't know if that was lucky or not. On one hand, she had more time to prepare mentally. On the other hand, she had to sit through everyone else's performances, watching them succeed while her own anxiety built. The door to the recital hall opened, and the student coordinator called Victoria's name. Victoria stood gracefully, smoothed her dress, and walked inside with her head held high. The door closed behind her. For 10 minutes, Maya and the other students sat in silence, able to hear muffled piano music from inside, but not clearly enough to judge the performance. When Victoria finally emerged, she was smiling, that confident, satisfied smile that made Maya's stomach sink. "That went perfectly," Victoria announced to her friends, loud enough for everyone to hear. "The judges loved it. Professor Chen even smiled, and you know how rare that is." One by one, the other students were called. Each one came out looking either pleased or disappointed. But none of them seemed to have crashed and burned. They were all talented, all well-prepared. Maya's confidence wavered with each performance. Finally, after what felt like hours, her name was called. Maya Rodriguez. She stood on legs that felt like water and walked toward the door. Just before she entered, she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Tom, the security guard, standing there. "Give them something they won't forget," he said quietly. "I've heard you practicing all these weeks. You've got this." Maya nodded, surprised and grateful. She hadn't realized anyone else had been listening. Inside the recital hall, 5 judges sat in the front row. Professor Chen, her piano instructor, was there, along with Dr. Werner, the visiting conductor, and 3 other distinguished faculty members. The stage lights were bright, and the Steinway grand piano sat waiting, gleaming black and imposing. "Miss Rodriguez," Professor Chen said formally. "Please, whenever you're ready." Maya walked to the piano, her footsteps echoing in the quiet space. She sat on the bench and adjusted it slightly, buying herself a few seconds to breathe and center herself. Her hands hovered over the keys. This was it. Everything she had worked for. All those early mornings and late nights, all the whispers and mockery she had endured, all came down to this moment. She thought about Mr. Chen's words about playing from the heart. She thought about her mother's sacrifices. She thought about the cardboard piano and the 7-year-old girl who had fallen in love with music. Then she began to play. The opening chords of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 filled the hall, powerful and commanding. Maya's fingers moved across the keys with a confidence she didn't know she possessed. The first movement flowed from her hands like water, technically precise but filled with emotion. She wasn't just hitting the right notes. She was telling a story. As she played, something magical happened. The nervousness melted away. The judges, the empty seats, even the recital hall itself seemed to disappear. There was only Maya and the music, and the piano singing under her hands. Every difficult passage she had struggled with for weeks now came naturally. Her fingers knew where to go, and her heart knew what to express. The second movement brought tears to her eyes as she played. It was the saddest, most beautiful part of the concerto, and Maya poured all her loneliness and struggle into it. She thought about every time she had eaten lunch alone, every cruel comment, every moment she had felt like giving up. All of it went into the music. Then came the third movement, the one she had worried about most. Fast, technically demanding, full of rapid runs and complex rhythms. But her hands flew across the keys with precision and passion. She wasn't thinking anymore, just feeling, just playing, just letting the music flow through her. When she played the final triumphant chords, the sound seemed to hang in the air for a moment before fading into silence. Maya's hands remained on the keys, trembling slightly. She had done it. She had actually done it. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Maya looked up at the judges, suddenly terrified. Had she made mistakes she didn't notice? Was the silence bad? Then Professor Chen sat forward in his chair, his eyes wide. "Miss Rodriguez," he said slowly, "that was remarkable. Dr. Werner was nodding, and Maya could see genuine surprise on his face. "The technical execution was impressive," he said in his German accent. "But more than that, the emotional depth was extraordinary. I have rarely heard a student play with such maturity and understanding." One of the other judges, an elderly woman who taught music history, was actually wiping her eyes. "Beautiful," she murmured. "Just beautiful." Professor Chen looked at his fellow judges. "I think we need to discuss this. But Miss Rodriguez, thank you. That was a powerful performance." Maya stood and bowed, her legs shaking again, but this time from relief and exhaustion rather than fear. As she walked toward the door, Dr. Werner spoke again. "Miss Rodriguez, wait, I must ask, where did you learn to interpret Rachmaninoff with such emotional depth? This piece requires not just technical skill, but life experience, understanding of struggle and triumph." Maya paused, thinking of Mr. Chen and their secret lessons. She couldn't reveal him, not when he had asked her to keep it quiet. "I practiced a lot," she said simply, "and I tried to connect the music to my own experiences, to understand what Rachmaninoff was feeling when he wrote it." Dr. Werner studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Well, whatever you did, it worked. That was the finest student performance I have heard in many years." Maya left the recital hall in a daze. Outside, the other students were still waiting, curious about the last performance. Victoria immediately stood up, her expression haughty. "So, how did it go? Did you manage to get through it without too many mistakes?" But before Maya could answer, the door opened again. Professor Chen stepped out, looking at the gathered students. "I want to thank you all for auditioning today. The standard was very high. However, the judges have reached a unanimous decision." Maya's heart pounded. They had decided already? That was fast. "The student who will perform at the annual gala is—" Professor Chen paused, his eyes finding Maya's. "Maya Rodriguez." The silence that followed was deafening. Maya stood frozen, unable to process the words. She had won? She had actually won? Victoria's face had gone pale. "That's impossible," she said loudly. "There must be some mistake. I played perfectly. My family has supported this school for generations." Professor Chen's expression remained neutral, but firm. The decision was based solely on the quality of the performances. Miss Rodriguez's interpretation was exceptional, and all 5 judges agreed unanimously. There is no mistake. Victoria looked like she wanted to argue further, but one of her friends pulled her back. The group huddled together, whispering furiously, shooting angry glances at Maya. But Maya barely noticed. She was too busy trying to breathe, trying to believe this was really happening. She had done it. Against all odds, despite everything, she had proven herself. "Congratulations, Miss Rodriguez," Professor Chen said, approaching her. "You'll need to prepare for the gala performance in 2 weeks. It will be a full evening event with the school orchestra accompanying you. Are you ready for that challenge?" "Yes," Maya said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Yes, I'm ready." As the other students dispersed, some offering genuine congratulations while others walked away in sullen silence, Maya found a quiet corner and pulled out her phone. Her hands were still shaking as she called her mother. "Mija, how did it go?" "Mama," Maya said, and her voice broke with emotion. "I got it. I'm performing at the gala." Her mother's scream of joy was so loud that Maya had to hold the phone away from her ear. "I knew it. I knew you would. Oh, Mija, I'm so proud of you." They talked for a few more minutes, her mother crying happy tears, before Maya had to hang up. She needed to find Mr. Chen and tell him the news. He deserved to know that his teaching, his belief in her, had made this possible. She found him in the practice room hallway, emptying a trash can. When he saw her face, he smiled knowingly. "You got it," he said simply. "I got it," Maya confirmed, tears streaming down her face now. "Thank you." Thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Mr. Chen set down his trash bag and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. No, my dear. You did this yourself. I only helped you find what was already inside you. The talent, the passion, the determination, that was all yours. What happens now? Maya asked. The gala is in 2 weeks. I'll be playing with the full orchestra. I've never done that before. Now, Mr. Chen said, his eyes twinkling. Now the real work begins. You've won the audition. But the gala performance is what everyone will remember. That's where you show them not just that you belong here, but that you're extraordinary. Maya nodded, feeling both excited and terrified. She had crossed one finish line only to find another ahead of her. But she wasn't the same girl who had arrived at Ashford months ago, unsure and intimidated. She had fought through the mockery, the isolation, the doubt. She had found her voice, her strength, her music. Victoria and her friends might hate her even more now. The whispers might get worse. But Maya didn't care anymore. She had proven something to herself that no one could take away. She belonged here, not because of money or family name, but because of talent and heart. As she walked through the halls of Ashford that day, her head held high. Maya felt something she hadn't felt since arriving at the school. She felt proud, and she felt ready for whatever came next. The 2 weeks leading up to the gala passed in a blur of rehearsals and preparation. Maya practiced with the school orchestra for the first time, learning to blend her piano part with the sweeping strings and powerful brass sections. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once. The conductor, a stern woman named Maestro Liu, pushed her hard, demanding precision and emotional connection in every measure. But the rehearsals weren't the hardest part. The hardest part was dealing with Victoria. After losing the audition, Victoria had become even more hostile. She and her friends spread rumors that the judges had only chosen Maya out of pity or to make the school look more diverse. They whispered that Maya would embarrass everyone at the actual gala, that she would crack under pressure. One afternoon, Maya discovered that someone had spilled coffee all over her sheet music in her locker. The carefully marked pages she had been working from for weeks were ruined, brown stains bleeding through the notes. She had to spend hours reprinting and remarking everything. Another time, she arrived at a scheduled orchestra rehearsal only to find that her practice time had been mysteriously canceled from the schedule. By the time she figured out what had happened, she had missed the entire session. Mr. Chen found her crying in the practice room that evening. "They're trying to sabotage me," Maya said, wiping her eyes angrily. "They want me to fail." "Of course they do," Mr. Chen said calmly, sitting beside her. "You've threatened their whole world. You've proven that money and connections don't guarantee success. That's terrifying to people like Victoria. But why can't they just let me have this one thing? Why do they have to make everything so hard?" Mr. Chen smiled sadly. "Because if they let you succeed without fighting, they have to admit that maybe they don't deserve their positions as much as they thought. It's easier to try to tear you down than to examine their own privileges." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "But here's what they don't understand. Every obstacle they put in your way only makes you stronger. Every attempt to break you only proves how unbreakable you really are. When you walk onto that stage tomorrow night, you'll be carrying the weight of all this struggle, and it will make your performance even more powerful." Tomorrow night. Maya's stomach flipped. The gala was tomorrow. "I'm scared," she admitted. "What if they're right? What if I freeze up there in front of all those people?" "You won't," Mr. Chen said with certainty. "You know why? Because you've already survived the hardest part. The mockery, the isolation, the doubt. Playing the piano will be the easy part compared to what you've already overcome." That night, Maya could barely sleep. She kept running through the piece in her mind, imagining everything that could go wrong. What if she forgot a section? What if her fingers stumbled? What if the audience hated it? The next morning, her mother had taken the day off from work, a rare luxury they couldn't really afford. She helped Maya get ready, brushing her hair and adjusting the simple black dress they had bought together at a discount store. "You look beautiful," her mother said, her eyes shining with pride and tears. "Mama, don't cry yet. The performance isn't until tonight." "I'm crying because I'm happy. Because I'm looking at my daughter who has worked so hard and come so far. Do you know what you've already accomplished? Whether you play perfectly tonight or not, you've already won. You've already shown them who you are." They took the bus together to the school. The annual gala was the biggest event of the year, and the campus was transformed. The main concert hall was decorated with flowers and elegant lighting. Expensive cars lined the circular driveway as donors and board members arrived in designer gowns and tuxedos. Maya's mother squeezed her hand as they approached the entrance. "I'm going to find my seat. You go get ready. And Mija, play for yourself tonight. Don't play for them. Play for that 7-year-old girl with the cardboard piano. Play because you love music, not because you have something to prove." Maya hugged her mother tightly, then headed backstage. The nervous energy was palpable. Orchestra members were tuning their instruments, and stage crew hurried back and forth with last-minute adjustments. Maya found a quiet corner to warm up her fingers and center her mind. That's when Victoria appeared, dressed in a stunning designer gown that probably cost more than Maya's mother made in 6 months. Her makeup was flawless, her hair styled by professionals. "Big night," Victoria said, her tone deceptively casual. "I hope you're ready. There are some very important people out there, board members, major donors, music critics. One mistake and it'll be all over social media by tomorrow morning." Maya took a deep breath, refusing to let Victoria get to her. "I'm ready." "Are you, though?" Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping to a cruel whisper. "Because I heard the orchestra saying your timing was off in rehearsal. And let's be honest, you're just a girl from the South Side with a keyboard. These people expect excellence, not some charity case trying to play dress-up in a world she doesn't belong in." Before Maya could respond, Victoria delivered her final blow. "Oh, and I thought you should know. Your assigned dressing room? There was a scheduling conflict. You'll need to get ready in the storage room down the hall." "Sorry about that." She walked away with a satisfied smile, leaving Maya standing there, her confidence shaken. Was her timing really off? Had the orchestra been talking about her? And now she had to get dressed in a storage room? Maya felt the familiar wave of self-doubt washing over her. Maybe she really didn't belong here. Maybe this whole thing was a mistake. But then she remembered Mr. Chen's words. Every obstacle only made her stronger. This was just one more attempt to break her, and she refused to break. She found the storage room, a cramped space filled with old music stands and equipment. As she changed into her performance dress, she heard a soft knock on the door. It was Tom, the security guard. "Hey, Maya, I know this isn't a proper dressing room. That wasn't right what they did. But I wanted you to have this." He handed her a small bouquet of simple flowers. "For good luck, and I'll be watching from the back. We're all rooting for you." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Tom. That means more than you know." When she finally made her way to the stage entrance, her hands were shaking again. She peeked through the curtain at the audience. The concert hall was packed with elegantly dressed people, their jewelry glittering under the chandeliers. In the back row, she spotted her mother, sitting in her best dress, the one she wore to church. Next to her mother was Tom in his security uniform, and a few rows behind them, she saw Mr. Chen, wearing a neat but old suit, his kind eyes watching the stage. These were her people, not the wealthy donors in the front rows, not the board members or critics. Her people were the ones who had believed in her when no one else did. The lights dimmed, the audience quieted. Maestro Liu raised her baton, and the orchestra began the opening measures of the concerto. Then it was time. Maya walked onto the stage. The spotlight was blinding at first. She could barely see the audience, just a sea of shadows beyond the light. She sat at the grand piano, so much more beautiful than her keyboard at home, and placed her hands on the keys. This was the moment. Everything she had worked for, all the early mornings and late nights, all the tears and doubts and small victories, it all came down to this. She began to play. The opening chords rang out, powerful and clear. The orchestra swelled behind her, and suddenly Maya wasn't nervous anymore. She was home. This was where she belonged. Not because of money or family name, but because music was part of her soul. Her fingers danced across the keys and the concerto came alive. Every note was exactly where it needed to be, technically perfect, but also deeply emotional. She poured everything into it. Her mother's sacrifices, the mockery she had endured, the loneliness of eating lunch alone, the joy of finally being heard. In the audience, people began to sit forward in their seats. This wasn't just a student performance. This was something special. The wealthy donors who had come expecting a pleasant evening of supporting the school found themselves genuinely moved. Some had tears in their eyes. Others sat with their mouths slightly open, amazed. Victoria, sitting in the third row, felt her heart sink as she realized what was happening. Maya wasn't just playing well. She was giving the performance of a lifetime. The second movement brought absolute silence to the hall. Even the critics, who came prepared to find flaws, could find none. The sadness and beauty of the music seemed to reach into every heart in the room. Then came the triumphant third movement, Maya's fingers flying across the keys with breathtaking speed and precision. The orchestra matched her energy, and together they built to the final, powerful conclusion. When the last chord faded, there was a moment of absolute silence. Maya's hands remained on the keys, her chest heaving, unable to believe she had actually done it. Then the audience exploded. People leaped to their feet, applauding and cheering. It wasn't the polite applause of a formal event. It was genuine, enthusiastic, overwhelming. Maestro Liu was beaming. The orchestra members were tapping their bows against their music stands in appreciation. Maya stood and bowed, tears streaming down her face. In the back row, her mother was sobbing with pride. Tom was whistling and clapping so hard his hands hurt. And Mr. Chen, the former concert pianist turned janitor, was wiping his eyes, nodding with deep satisfaction. As Maya bowed again, she caught sight of Victoria. For once, Victoria had no clever comments, no cruel smile. She just looked stunned, forced to witness something she couldn't deny or diminish. After the performance, as Maya finally made it backstage, she was immediately surrounded by people. Board members wanted to shake her hand. A famous music critic asked for an interview. 3 different wealthy donors offered to fund her future education and concert tours. Professor Chen found her in the chaos. Miss Rodriguez, that was the finest student performance in Ashford Academy's 70-year history. I have never been more proud of a student. Dr. Werner approached next, his usually stern face broken by a wide smile. Extraordinary. Simply extraordinary. I will be telling my colleagues in Europe about this performance for years to come. But the moment Maya would remember most came when she finally found her mother and Mr. Chen. They were standing together, both beaming with pride. "You did it, Mija," her mother whispered, pulling her into a tight embrace. "You showed them all." Mr. Chen simply nodded, his eyes saying everything words couldn't. She had taken his teachings and made them her own. She had transformed struggle into art. As Maya stood there, surrounded by the people who truly mattered, she understood something important. She hadn't won because she proved Victoria wrong. She hadn't won because she impressed the wealthy donors. She had won because she stayed true to herself, because she worked harder than anyone else, and because she refused to let anyone else define her worth. The poor girl from the South Side had faced their mockery and doubt. And she had answered with music so powerful, so honest, so beautiful, that no one could deny her place among them. She belonged here, not because someone gave her permission, but because she had earned it with talent, dedication, and an unbreakable spirit. And that was a victory no one could ever take away.